Composting is a great way to reduce quite a bit of waste in your household, as well as methane gas emissions from landfills. But it can be an intimidating part of the zero waste lifestyle if you're just getting started. I've gotten a lot of questions about how to compost, so let's dive into some of those details today. And a thank you to Pela for partnering again with me on this video. More on their awesome home compostable phone cases later. First, what is compostable? So many terms are thrown around when it comes to compostability, so let's define what's compostable. Anything that is all natural and made of organic product or materials that can degrade over time in soil and provide rich nutrients as it degrades, leaving no toxic residues behind. The most commonly composted materials are food scraps, such as produce scraps, coffee grounds, eggshells, etc. Brown paper product is also considered compostable, but may take longer to degrade over time. One additional term you may want to keep in mind is biodegradable. The difference is that biodegradable is an umbrella term, and it stands for the materials that do break down over time, which become harmless compounds eventually, but they may leave metal residues and often have no benefit for the soil. While all compostable materials are biodegradable, not all biodegradable materials are compost friendly. Some items that are not classified as biodegradable are glass, metal, and plastic. Whether items are labeled as compostable or biodegradable, do read the fine print. Today, there's an abundance of bioplastics made from ingredients such as corn, which is a renewable resource. But bioplastics have similar properties to plastic, and they don't degrade as corn, for example, normally would. Oftentimes, they must degrade in a very particular environment, usually only offered in an industrial composting site, which offers enough heat, bacteria, and particular conditions to break those materials down over time. Some bioplastics are also becoming home compostable for those that do not have industrial solutions nearby. Do note that bioplastics are also not recyclable in mainstream recycling streams. So when in doubt, look into the details, ask the manufacturer, and understand what is actually recycled or composted in your local community. One great example of compostable materials done right is actually from Pela Case, the sponsor for today's video. I've been using my Pela case to protect my phone for the past year, and I love that at the end of their lifespan, that they're 100% compostable, even in a backyard. The cases are soft yet protective, made with a safe bioplastic and flax straw materials. There is also the option to send your phone case or any Pela product back to be recycled into new Pela products, which is all part of their vision for a circular, zero-waste world. If you need a new phone case or accessories, look no further and be sure to support this company that is B Corp certified and part of 1% for the planet. Do check the link and code in the description box, as the first 50 subscribers that use the code Christine will receive 40% off their purchase. So let's dive into the most simple way to compost, which is apartment friendly, the drop-off. If you're up for a little project, you can explore a vermicompost bin, rotating bin outdoors, or bokashi system. I will link another helpful YouTube video in the description box that goes into a high-level overview of those different composting methods. Many of you have asked about my beautiful vermicompost bin, which unfortunately just didn't work out for us after we moved into this current apartment. My worms had a difficult time thriving for some reason, and we got more pests that were difficult to deal with indoors. it is possible for rotating bins to also generate pests, so that's something I didn't want to have to deal with. So as a result, I looked for a drop-off option, and I want to share some ways to find a drop-off which is local for you. First, municipal composting. Consider yourself lucky if your local government cares enough to offer curbside composting, but if it's not a reality yet, don't hesitate to ask. It's always a great way to learn about the waste management system in your community and potentially nudge them in the direction of better waste diversion. If that isn't an option, consider finding a community garden that might have a compost drop-off. Compost is a great product to help nourish a garden. If there isn't one and you have some time, consider volunteering to get a community garden compost system started. Last, and the solution I've been using, is Share Waste. Share Waste is a website which includes a great network of people who are willing to take compostable material for their own compost at home, whether it's a vermicompost bin, chickens, etc. Do note that different hosts will take different types of food scraps depending on their compost system, but usually produce scraps are accepted. Usually meat, bones, and greasy products are not accepted as they attract pests, so be sure that your compost is free of any of those, or even produce stickers, plastic tags, or any bioplastics, unless agreed upon with your compost host. When it comes to drop-off, I typically take all of my produce scraps and freeze them in a paper bag in the freezer. Once full, I'll take the produce bag and drop it off at my site. Freezing produce scraps helps control the scent and keeps the scraps from degrading, which is quite helpful if you can't visit your drop-off site quite as often. Beyond drop-off options, in the case you do have some yard space, I did want to share a relatively fuss-free way to compost, which is creating a compost pile. There are two versions of compost piles, one hot and one cold. The cold compost pile is a much more fuss-free version, as all you need to do is put your produce scraps in a large heap and wait. It does take much more time for the scraps to degrade, but it will take less work. Do avoid meat, grease, and dairy again, and add plenty of brown matter such as dead leaves to help mask the smell, and that will help to keep the pests out. If you want to manage a hot compost, it will degrade your food scraps more quickly, but you will need to monitor and regularly turn the compost to create the right conditions. I'd recommend checking out more tutorials on how to do this before you commit to managing a hot compost. Last is one additional way to compost, again, if you have yard space, and that is by trench composting. Trench composting was the first way we started composting in our family. We started to bury produce scraps in the backyard to help feed our orange trees, and we noticed that the scraps provided much needed nutrients for the trees, which allowed them to finally bear fruit. It takes about 5 minutes to dig a hole, fill it with scraps from the day, and cover it up. And while it does require some waiting time for the scraps to degrade, we rotate compost spots throughout the yard and have seen the benefit of reduced food waste and a healthier garden. Trench composting is great because it keeps the compost invisible, odor-free, and it's typically done degrading in about a month. My parents have kept up with the practice for over 5 years, and it's great to see how much they believe in the importance of composting and reducing food waste. And it also goes to show that trench composting might be an easy solution for your household. So those are the 3 simplest ways to compost based on my experience, but don't let this video stop you from trying other methods of composting if you're intrigued. Again, check the link in the description box for that YouTube video on additional composting methods to see what might be a great fit for you. If you have any other questions about composting or want to share a bit more about your experience, do comment below. I hope you guys found this video helpful because I know that composting can be a bit intimidating, but it doesn't have to be. With that, thanks so much for watching and supporting this channel, and I hope you guys have a simple and sustainable day ahead.